Okay, so the gustatory system, right, begins with detection of chemical, what we call tastants. And tastants are chemicals that are dissolved from foods. So when you chew, when you eat, you also release enzymes that help to break down foods into smaller components. And these will work their way around the tongue and around the mouth and up on the roof of the mouth, too. And there you will actually find specialized taste receptor cells. And these have evolved specializations that make them look very different from sort of a classical neuron that we've been discussing. And they also kind of remarkably express special genes to build specific proteins that are embedded in their membranes. And those particular receptor proteins that are embedded in the membranes of the taste receptor cells will grab on to specific chemical constituents of food, like, for example, glucose or fructose or something, and then that'll generate some kind of a change in the membrane potential, typically of that taste receptor cell. And the gustatory system is interesting because these taste receptor cells are very unique in terms of their structure. They're kind of like, they look like sections of an orange, and they're all sort of, surrounded. They're these like crescent-shaped cells, and at one end there are these little cilia, these little kind of membrane protrusions that are called sort of cilia, and they poke out of a whole collection of these crescent-shaped taste receptor cells that are found in what we call taste buds. So if you look at your tongue, it's kind of bumpy, and there are these like kind of projections that kind of stick up. They're kind of like actually the Latin for them is papilla, which means nipple. So you could leave today knowing your tongue has nipples. But basically, along the edges of those, papilla are going to be these tiny little holes. They're called taste pores. And in each one of those little holes, each one of these little taste pores is a whole series of crescent-shaped taste receptor cells. And they're arranged, again, sort of like circular, sort of like like the sections of an orange. And poking out of that pore a little bit are these cilia of each one of these individual crescent-shaped taste receptor cells. And they're going to be kind of specialized for the detection we're going to see of different sorts of tastes or different kinds of tastants, the chemicals that are going to lead to your perceptual experience of tastes. Now, these individual taste receptor cells, again, crescent-shaped, trapped sort of within taste buds with little ciliated projections at the end, ranged like sort of sections of an orange and taste buds. They're going to have, basically, the terminal membranes, really. I mean, they're kind of weird-shaped cells. Again, this is, illustrating our principle how, afferent neurons have evolved specializations to be able to, detect and transduce different forms of energy. But they release neurotransmitter upon the binding, typically, of whatever it is that they're specialized, to detect, to bind, what constituent of food. They release neurotransmitter onto what is effectively the dendrite, right, of a pseudo-unipolar cell, a cell that is going to be carrying, taste information, from these individual taste receptor cells on the tongue, back to the central nervous system. And we'll learn a little bit more about the various cranial nerves that are going to be carrying this taste information. But I want to point out that these particular taste receptor cells are not just found on the surface of the tongue. They're also found on the side of the tongue. They're also found actually on the roof of the mouth. Actually, you can do an interesting experiment at home if you have, some potato chips available. Take a potato chip and stick it, on right behind the teeth. That's the hard palate, right? You'll feel that hard, and you won't taste anything. But as you move back and you hit the softer palate, all of a sudden you will experience the flavor of a potato chip because there are taste receptor cells that are localized on the soft palate of the roof of the mouth as well. And it's kind of remarkable because many people, when they try this, they sort of ascribe the taste as coming from the tongue because we've been told all our lives, right, that the tongue is where you taste, and yet here you've got the chip, up